started then on this webinar. So the webinar is the 4-step formula to accelerate your job search in a tough job market. I'm Jo Painter. I'm going to be taking you through this evening. And I promise you that by the end of this webinar, you're going to be looking at your job search in a new and exciting light. So this webinar is for you if maybe you've been made redundant or you've left your job and you're finding that your savings are going down and down and you're still not got an offer coming. It's also for you if you're feeling scared because you've been applying for lots of roles, but you're finding that so are hundreds of other people, and as a result, you're getting very little response or interviews. Again, it's for you if you've been applying, getting interviews, and then just finding you've been pipped at the post in the last 2 or 3 people because they've got more experience possibly. And it's also for you if you're feeling stuck and undervalued in your role. You want to get a new job, you want to progress, but you don't know where to get started on your job search. So if any of those sound like you, then absolutely you're in the right place this evening. So I'd love it if you could give the webinar your full attention. I know when we're on laptops all day, it can feel like things are interrupting us all the time. But if you can turn off your phones and turn down your emails and browsers and give the full attention, I promise you that there is a lot of great strategies and content to share with you. So what am I going to be sharing with you? So I'll be sharing the number 1 reason why you haven't got the ideal job you deserve yet. I'll be talking to you about applicant tracking systems. I'm sure you've probably heard of them because they're the AI that are used by 70% of companies now to filter through your CVs. So I'm going to give you the secret to how you can get your CV past the ATS. I'll also be talking to you about how to identify your personal brand. And personal brand is what makes you stand out, and it makes you sure that your application gets through that filtering process because it gives you a differential to everybody else. I'll also be talking about the importance of building relationships, because when you build those relationships, what happens is that job opportunities actually come to you. So I'm going to be talking about how you can do that. And my goal for this webinar for you is that you leave knowing exactly what you need to do oh, I'm just going to have to mute people. Somebody's got their oh, that's it. Hopefully muted now. So that you know exactly how to nail your next job offer. So imagine that you can proudly announce to your friends, families, and sorry about this. I'm trying to chat to. Here we are. Got it. Just muting everybody now. Okay. So imagine if you're proudly announcing to your friends, families, and colleagues that you've got this great new job. You can maybe put it out on LinkedIn as well, and imagine the increased pay coming in monthly. So that's what you can get when you nail your next job offer. Now, what I'd like is you to stay to the end of the webinar, partly because I've got so many great strategies and ideas and content for you to share, but also because if you do stay to the end of the webinar, I will give you a free gift. And my free gift is my 7 proven strategies for a high-performing CV. We're going to be talking about 2 or 3 of them tonight, but if you want the whole of the rest of them, then please do stay to the end and you can get that freebie. So what makes this webinar different? Well, first of all, it's because I'm not selling anything. A lot of webinars have a high-pressure sales pitch or convince you need to buy something right now. There's none of that on this webinar at all. It's purely brilliant strategies to help you with your job search. And I will make sure those strategies are actionable because I know from experience how frustrating it is when you attend a webinar, you give up your time and you end up leaving with nothing that can make any difference. So I guarantee that tonight. Now, having said that, I do just want to tell you a little bit about my story, and that's because it's relevant to what we're talking about this evening. So I originally qualified as a pharmacist. I did that for a few years and then decided I wanted to go up the management career ladder. And it went well. I was getting jobs, I was having success, I was really happy. Until I reached a point where I was plateauing. I was applying for jobs and not getting many interviews at all. And if I did get an interview, I never got the offer. So for me at that point, I found it really demotivating and I was quite down because I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. So I spent quite a bit of time reading books about strategies to get your job search, etc. But it didn't make much difference at all. And it wasn't until I actually worked with a career coach from the organization that I was working in, and they helped me. They pointed out that my CV was bland and it wasn't selling me or my career story. And they pointed out that in interviews, I was being too much of the nice girl, trying to get people to like me and therefore offer me a job, rather than focusing on what value and contribution I had. And that for me was a light bulb moment. That was when I recognized that actually I can go on to do things. I just need to change the way that I'm going through the job search process. So since then, I have been researching and working with hundreds of people on their job searches, on their promotions, etc. And here's just one example of somebody, Nicola, who was in a pretty bad place when I met her, not able to get a job. She's a lawyer in financial services. And by the end of our working together, you can see that she didn't believe she'd ever get out of where she was, and she has now. So why listen to me? Well, as I said, I have coached this proven process that gets clients, new jobs, pay rises, promotions, and career fulfillment to hundreds of clients. I've also spoken with my 4-step formula at lots of major organizations like Amazon, Ford, Lloyds Blank, I can go on and on, but also appearing on Sky News. And I've also written a book called Good Enough, which is all about having confidence and successful careers. As I said, I've spent 16 years researching and working with hundreds of STEM leaders and job searchers. And I've uncovered the steps to having that successful and rewarding work. And they do work, the processes work. I have proved it with lots of people. So let's get down to the proper information now. My 4-step job search accelerator. So I'll just move myself so you can see the rest of it. So step 1 is about knowing your worth. Step 2 is about having high-performing CV and documents. Step 3 is about using front and backdoor job search strategies. And step 4 is about keeping the faith. Now, before I go on to give you more detail on each of those steps, I just want to answer the question about why are you not getting the job offer that you want? Now, there are a number of reasons for this. One of them is at the moment, the jobs market, in particular in pharma, in tech, and in financial services, is very slow and quite sticky. It's a difficult job market, so it's not surprising that some of you are struggling at the moment, because there have been lots of restructures, redundancies, recruitment freezes, and a number of offers have actually been rescinded to people that I've heard of. That doesn't mean you need to panic if you're looking for a job urgently. It just means that you need to be on your A game. You need to have high-performing CV, great interview technique, and you need to be differentiating yourself. that will put you in the top 5% of applicants at the front of the queue for a job. And then if you're in that position, it doesn't matter what the job market is doing because you'll be at the front of the queue. So other reasons that you might not be getting the job offer is if you're expecting your standard CV to automatically get through the applicant tracking system. Now, the applicant tracking system is different pieces of software. So you have to ensure that there are certain things that I'll come on to talk about that are in place on your CV to get it through that. And as I said, 70% of companies are using ATS now. And 75% of recruiters are also using ATS. So if your CV isn't ATS friendly, it's not even going to get to the human eyes. And actually another figure I heard is that 70% of those CVs that are rejected by ATS are actually removed from the database, so get nowhere near human eyes. Now, if your CV gets past the ATS, then you're probably expecting that your CV will get you the interview. But in actual fact, I see every day CVs that are incredibly bland and that can label you as able at your current level of role, but not at the next level up. So you're underselling yourself. And 30% of job applicants only spend 15 minutes on applying for a job. If you spend 15 minutes on it, then I'm afraid you're going to be at the back of the queue when it comes to getting an interview. And hiring managers only actually read, on average, 15 words of the CV before they label you as possible or not possible for an interview. So your CV is really important for that first stage. It could also be that you're only applying for jobs on LinkedIn, Indeed, or other job boards. Now, by doing that, you're restricting yourself in the number of jobs that you get your eyes on, and you're restricting yourself to jobs where quite often hundreds of people are applying. And if 100 people are applying, not everybody is going to get even looked at to go for an interview. So you need to use different strategies as well as this. Now, it could be that in interviews as well, you're thinking that your experience will speak for itself. They've invited you for interview and they've seen your experience on your CV. So does that make you think that you just got to answer the questions well and it'll be good? Well, that isn't enough again in interviews. You need to be able to show your passion and enthusiasm for the role, why you're a great fit, and something that differentiates you from the other candidates. Why should we choose you? And I'm going to be talking about that coming up. And finally, it could be that you doubt yourself. I work with lots of people who struggle with interview nerves, worrying what other people think, and who are really not self-sabotaging and not giving themselves the best chance within an interview. So, and confidence levels are very apparent to an interviewer. They can tell when somebody is nervous or isn't confident in what they're saying. So now we know why you're not getting the job. Let's go back to my 4-step job search. Okay. So step number 1, as I said, is know your worth. And that's because getting a new job is all about positioning and marketing yourself as being the right person for the job. So it's less about job hunting and more about job dating. 2 of you coming together to find the right person and the right job. So how do you articulate in your CV and into interviews your value and your contribution to the hiring manager? Well, it's all about your personal brand. Your personal brand describes what you as an individual contribute in terms of value to any organization. It's basically the strapline, your USP, or whatever you want to call it, the thing that makes you stand out to other people. And when I work with clients, we work through a 6-step process that takes in all the elements you can see in the pyramid behind me. And we work through each of those to identify what it is that makes you unique or gives you a differential in those areas. So we start off by looking at your values, and that's really important to see whether your values will meet with the values of any company you're applying to. We look at your motivators. What is it that gets you to go to work every day? What is it that gives you that buzz to actually do the job? We look at what your reputation is. How are people seeing you? What do they notice about you that possibly is something unique or differential? Then we focus on your behaviors. What's your style of leadership? How do you behave in certain situations? To look at what your style is. We focus on your skills and strengths, because clearly they're going to be the things that a hiring manager is keen on. And we look at your purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is in getting to this place, then and getting to the job, then that's going to make it really difficult to describe who you are and what you bring to an organization. So once we've worked through all of those elements, we bring that all together and incorporate each of those elements to come out with a pitch of your personal brand. Something that you can articulate on paper or one-to-one. So the benefit for that is, first of all, it gives you some confidence because you know exactly what it is about you that's great and you're able to articulate it. Secondly, it's brilliant for networking to introduce yourself. Thirdly, it's perfect for an interview when you ask the questions like, tell me about yourself, or why should we choose you? Having a personal brand pitch is perfect for those situations. And the reason it's important to have one, you may be thinking, oh, well, yes, no, I've got a good CV, that's fine. But without a personal brand or a career story, your application is going to be pretty mediocre, middle level. Including a personal brand and a career story raises you to that top 5% that puts you at the front of the job search queue. The other benefit of knowing your worth is that it can help you determine what jobs you want to apply for and what's a fit for you. So by understanding what motivates you, what values you have, the way you like to behave, you can start to filter through some of the jobs and apply for those that really are the right fit for you. It's not just about the right experience or transferable skills. It's also about you realizing whether this job is going to help you grow and thrive and whether it's going to give you what you need as well. So personal brand is really important, but don't just take my word for it. My client, Agatha, I worked with her. She came originally actually to see me because she wanted a CV update and a LinkedIn update. And when I talked to her, I realized, actually, Agatha, this isn't just about your documents. It's also the fact that you don't seem to have clarity on what you have to offer, and you don't have clarity on the career track that you want to be on. But she was determined all she wanted was her documents updated. So we did that. And she started to randomly apply for jobs on LinkedIn. And although she had small successes, nothing came to give her an actual job offer. So she came back to me a couple of months later and said, I need to get out of my own way. I need to start marketing myself. So then we worked through her personal brand. We included that into a CV, etc. We started building her backdoor strategy and her network. And it started really thinking about where she was going. And she completely changed direction, decided that the role she wanted was data architect. And 8 weeks after she recognized that, she had a job offer. So knowing what her personal brand helped to get the offer, but helped to recognize what was the right job for her too. So I'd like to take a moment where I'm not speaking for a second and ask you just to reflect on what I've said. I'll put myself up there, which is firstly, have you thought about a personal brand before? And if you have, or even if you hadn't, are there 3 words that you could use to describe yourself? And what would those 3 words be? So I would love to hear in the chat, have you thought about a personal brand? And what 3 particular words would you choose to describe yourself? So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to put something in the chat, and we can take it from there. Great, Marion, an inclusive scientific leader. Fantastic. Motivating, committed, and passionate. Wow, I bet you're really good to work with, Liz. Oh, Miranda has thought about her personal brand, and her words are creative, resourceful, determined. Kemi never thought of a personal brand. Most people haven't, so you're not on your own there. Will, driven, adaptable, and funny. Love that. It's a good one. Customer first professional, Dave. Yeah, great. And if that's coming across in your CV, etc., that's going to be a real winner. Skills, realistic and flexible, Kate. Great. I'm sure you could sell yourself a bit higher than that, though. I'm sure there's a little bit more to you. Goals driven, fast learner, team player. Creative, people orientated, and technical. Yeah, that's combining 3 quite different things. That's really good skills. Great. Determined, patient, and motivated. Wonderful. Experienced, commercially focused, trusted business partner here. Yes, fantastic. Thank you. These are some really good words coming through. Multi-talented, passionate, and experienced. Great. Like collaborating, like to challenge myself, and determined. Fantastic. Decisive, cross-functioning, and influencing. Creative, hardworking, supportive team member. Yes, it isn't always about being the person at the front. Adaptable, results-focused, commercial. Great. Fantastic. Brilliant. It's wonderful to see that people have really thought this through. Personal office comedian. Yes, that's a great one. Thank you, Dave. Excellent. Good. Okay, so let us move on. I'll bring myself back again and let us move on to step number 2. So this is all about high-performing documents. And when I refer to documents, what I mean is your CV, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile. So I've mentioned before why it's important to have these, but updating your CV and doing a cover letter aren't always the most enjoyable things for people. So I'm sure there's a bit of a groan going on, but it is particularly important these days that you have high-performing documents. Because in the past, a general CV worked for all jobs. You would send it out to lots of jobs and hopefully get some interviews from some. But these days, your approach does need to be different. It's all about tailoring your CV. So tailoring a CV to each job and your cover letter. And it's about the quality of what you include in it. People have a short focus and time span at looking at things. And when you've got a lot of CVs in front of you, something's got to jump out to help people notice you. In terms of your cover letter, I'm often asked, is it important to have a cover letter? Well, my answer is definitely yes. The reason for that is that unless the job description specifically says that you don't need a cover letter, then I would always include one. Because a cover letter is your opportunity, it's your advert, and it's what links your CV to the hiring manager is your cover letter. So I'll talk a bit more about what's important about that shortly. So here are 3 tips on getting, oh, sorry, missed a slide out there. 70% of companies, as I've said, use a form of applicant tracking system. It's a tough jobs market with hundreds of people applying for each job, so you need to stand out. So my first 3 CV top tips. For getting past the applicant tracking system, there are 3 important things. Number 1, use a Word document. So if you have a PDF of your CV or cover letter, change it to a Word document, because some of the AI software that's being used for ATS doesn't recognize all of a PDF. Also, for the same reason, make sure on your Word document that you haven't put any of your important information, like your email, name, that sort of thing, in the header or the footer, because some of the software doesn't recognize that. And finally, one of the most important things is that you include keywords that you take from the job description within your CV. So that's what the ATS is looking for. And you can score higher on some of the software if you've got more of the keywords included. And one of the things you can do to include those keywords is to have a skills section and list the top skills that you have that are also within the job description. So that is the things I'm suggesting for you to have a high-performing CV. And remember that if you stay to the end of the session, I will give you the link to get the top 7 top tips so you can have all of them. Sorry, apologies. Number 2 is to tailor your CV to each job. As I said before, this is the difference between the traditional CVs in the past. You need to make sure that you include into those skills and keywords, but it's not just about sticking in a few words here and there. You want to really research the job, research the company, and think about the profile summary you have at the top of your CV. What is the problem that this company is trying to solve with this job? And how can I show them that I'm a fit for that in my profile summary? So change your profile summary, adapt the achievements you've got, so the most relevant are easy to find. Make sure that any qualifications or that sort of thing are appearing up at the top if they're relevant to the job. So really adapting your CV for every job is really important. A question there, good question. Would you recommend adding a photo to your CV? I wouldn't, simply because of the ATS systems that sometimes don't pick that up. Another question, what is the difference between tailoring a CV for a particular job and also writing a cover letter for your particular job? Great question, Fernando. I'll come on to the cover letter later. They are different things and they have different uses. So both need to be tailored to the job. Another quick question, can ATS pick up tables in the work doc? No, not always. Keep your work doc very simple, because that isn't going to be seen. And if you're in a creative business and you would like to produce a creative CV, again, it's thought that some of the software won't pick that up either, I'm afraid. So keeping it quality, but not necessarily covering it with bells and whistles. The third point then is explain your achievements and not your key responsibilities. Again, traditionally on CVs, you would put the job title of the job you had, and you'd list the key responsibilities. But that doesn't tell the hiring manager anything about you personally or what you've achieved. So instead, under your job title, include the achievements that you've had and quantify them if possible. If there's something in the key responsibilities that makes you stand out, include that, absolutely. Or that is really relevant to the job, include that. But as much as possible, if you can use, sorry, I'm keeping an eye on the questions at the same time, as much as possible, put in achievements rather than key responsibilities. Do senior headhunter organizations such as Korn Ferry use ATS? They do. but I don't know exactly the system they use. So best to be careful in these situations when we don't know what's being used. Okay, great. Moving on now to your LinkedIn profile. So a LinkedIn profile is what we call almost a conciser version of your CV. So it should have similarities and matches to your CV, but not necessarily be the mirror image of it. It needs to be more concise. You don't need to put all of your work history and all of your achievements in. You can if you want to, absolutely. But there is also the option to upload your CV on LinkedIn, so you can use that rather than including everything on the profile. So my 3 top tips for LinkedIn are, firstly, have a professional headshot on your profile. It's not Facebook. We don't need the wife and the dog, etc. So a professional headshot is important. And then this area here, you can see where it has, I have my bright orange book your free call. That banner there, most people don't bother with, but putting something in makes you stand out to the recruiter or the hiring manager. So it just could be an image of your work logo. It could be something to do with the work you actually do. I've seen people in pharma having a molecular diagram or photo there, just to give something a bit different to make you stand out. A lot of people I find when I look at their profiles don't complete the about section. Now, this is your opportunity not only to sell yourself, but to include some personality. So I would always include the personal profile from your CV in there. You might adapt it, make it slightly different, but also include a bit of your work history without going into lots of detail. It's also your opportunity in posts and within your About You section to put in something about what your, your personality or what you're particularly passionate about. And then the third point is skills are very important because they're what draws a recruiter to your profile. So make sure that you have listed as many skills as you can that's appropriate to roles you're looking for. And then message some of your connections that you know and ask them to endorse you for those skills. And that really raises you up the recruiter list. The same as requesting recommendations does as well. So those are my 3 LinkedIn top tips. Finally, coming to the cover letter. So the cover letter is important. As I've said, 90% of executives who were surveyed said they use cover letters and that they're invaluable. So when they're assessing candidates, 49% of executives, HR managers have said that including a cover letter is the best way to call attention to your CV. And 87% of hiring managers and recruiters say that they do read cover letters. So they are well worth including in with your CV. So what are my top tips here? Well, a cover letter is your advert, as I said, but it shouldn't be a hugely long letter, and it shouldn't be a mirror of your CV. Your CV gives your experience, etc. Your cover letter intention is to talk about you, your personality, and your career story, and your values. So it gives the hiring manager or recruiter a taste of you that maybe they can't get from a CV. So it has a different purpose, which is why it's important. It comes in 3 sections. The top one being your greeting and introduction, then the body, and then the close. Now, you'll find if you go online and look at the templates for CVs, that the majority of them will begin with, to whom it may concern, I am applying for a project manager role that I saw on LinkedIn or Indeed. And that is probably what almost all cover letters start with. So to stand out, you need to do something a bit different. It doesn't have to be dramatically different, but try to avoid that boring, repetitive first phrase. Things I would recommend are asking a question. For example, are you looking for a project manager who has proven success in XYZ? And then go on to describe your success. Or you could say, I'm looking for a project manager role in a company that has values like this. So it's about some personality and some difference to make you stand out. The body section then is where you put it. You can show that you are passionate and you are really researched and interested in the job. So do your research, find out what the values are of the company, what their goals are, what their challenges might be, and use all of that to demonstrate how you're a good fit for the role. But as I say, keep it to 3 to 5 paragraphs. It shouldn't be anything longer than that, and certainly not over a page. And the final bit of the cover letter is the close. So it's the opportunity to ask for an interview in the close. So don't think it's wrong to ask for an interview. You'd be surprising how many people get rapid responses to interviews because they've asked for it in a cover letter. Okay, so just to tell you a bit about my client Simon, who came to me to work on his documents when he was in a pretty bad place. He'd been made redundant 4 months ago, had been consistently applying for jobs, but over the 4 months had only got 2 interviews. And he was starting to panic because his finances weren't good, and 4 months not having a job is quite a long period. So we worked on his personal brand and then combined that into high-performing documents. And then we worked through some of the back door strategies that I'll talk about. And he found that within the next month, he got 6 interviews. So that's 3 times the number of interviews he'd had in the previous 4 months. We went through the rest of the process with him, and he is now in a position as a director in a large pharma company. And he said to me that the redundancy and working with me were the best things to happen to his career. Okay, so step number 3, the backdoor strategy. Now, you may have seen, if you followed me on LinkedIn, some posts I've done about the front door and backdoor strategies. By a front door strategy, what I mean is the pretty standard job application. So applying to LinkedIn, applying on job boards, and approaching recruiters. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It works in some cases, and you absolutely should continue to do it. But because of the tough job market, because of you needing to be on your A game and get as many opportunities as possible, I suggest having the backdoor strategy as well. I've seen much more success with my clients with that strategy than with the front door. And what do I mean by a backdoor strategy? Well, it's about you, rather than you applying, it's about you building relationships and making connections that mean that jobs are coming to you. Opportunities are being referred to you rather than you looking for them. And the best thing about that is it means that you have access to the 80% of jobs that are never advertised, the hidden job market. So what is the strategy and what can you do? Well, here's a few ideas. So some of the backdoor strategies that I suggest for my clients are about one-to-one networking or networking in groups. Others are on online strategies, and these are some of them that I've got here. There are plenty more that I do share with my clients. Contact your existing connections. It might sound obvious, but sometimes we forget to actually get to who are the connections that you do have some sort of relationship with. So focus on those first and reach out to them, talk to them about your situation and what you're looking for. You need to be really clear on what it is you're looking for and your personal brand to ask them to look out for opportunities for you. Secondly, with connections that you don't really have a relationship with, and they'd think it might be a bit odd if you opened a direct message and it was you asking for opportunities. So start to build a relationship with them. And then as the relationship grows, you can maybe arrange a chat with them, a quick 10-minute call, or talk to them about what you're looking for. And do they have any suggestions? Also, look for the companies that you're wanting to work for, or the key influencers in your industry. Connect with them, connect with the hiring managers in these companies, and start building a relationship. For my clients, I have templates and I have steps that they can go through to enable them to make these relationships work quite strongly and quite quickly. But if you don't reach out and put yourself out there, you're going to be just reliant on the front door strategy, which at the moment isn't working as quickly or as having the impact that you'd want it to normally. Quick question here. How do you actually start the conversation? Can I simply say, I'm looking for opportunities? One, Jen, yes, absolutely. You can say that if it's somebody you connected to who you have some sort of relationship with. Maybe you worked with them 10 years ago or something like that. Yes, in those situations you can. With somebody you don't really have a relationship with, no, I would start with talking about them. You know, I can see from your career that you've worked in this. I've also worked in that sort of area too. I'm really interested in the path you've had. It would be great to have a conversation at some point. So it depends on the relationship that you've got. Also, I suggest to my clients that they comment, they post, and they engage with things on LinkedIn to raise their visibility. Okay, so just to tell you about Erin. Erin worked in financial services. She was quite bored in her job, and as a result, was looking for a new role, but wasn't getting anywhere with applying on LinkedIn. So again, we clarified her personal brand, we updated her documents, and we did this piece of work on backdoor strategies. Now, for Erin, this was taking her right out of her comfort zone, but she did it, and she's built a network that continues to grow and will help her career all the way through. And 8 weeks after we started working together, she was actually made redundant. So we had to speed things up. And 2 months after that, she got the offer of a new position. So that was great for Erin. So my final step in the program is keep the faith. Because one of the toughest things in a job search, even if you're in a job already and you're okay with a job, but you're looking for something new, one of the toughest things is keeping the faith in yourself. The rejections, the tumbleweed responses, the frustrations can really knock your confidence and have an effect on you when you get to interviews. And this happened to a client of mine, VJ, who, when he came to me, had been applying for the last 6 months for a new position. He was in a job at the time, but it left him feeling undervalued and feeling that the rejections were knocking his confidence. But by going through the personal brand process, it really raised his self-esteem and his confidence again, because he got a fresh look on himself and what he was actually offering. And then using the backdoor strategies gave him some control back, which made him feel really positive about moving forward. So this process is not only good in getting you a job, but it helps you with your confidence. And VJ is now flourishing in a VP role in a large pharma company. So one of the things that I think could help you with your feeling of lacking confidence and dealing and building your resilience through this process is that I often see people who feel that when they're in interviews or in the application process, they have to they become in a hierarchy where they see themselves as a child to a parent looking for approval. And this model is known as transactional analysis. It's a psychological model that Eric Berne came up with. And he says that in any interaction with anybody else, we fall into a state of parent, adult, and child. And when you're in one of those states, that's completely normal, but it's not always the healthiest thing for you. And if you go into an interview feeling like a child who is waiting for the judgment from a critical parent, it puts you in a lower position and you don't have the power in the interview. So I talk to my clients about getting into an adult to adult relationship in an interview, a professional to professional interview. And what that means is then that you have power in that interview, and it becomes more of a conversation. And it means when you leave that interview, you feel like you've done the best you could, you've been an adult, you've been a professional, and okay, the outcome may not go the way you want, but you can keep your faith in yourself. So that's really important. Okay, so I'd like you to very briefly tell me in the chat now what's been helpful about those 4 steps. Which of those 4 steps means it will has been the most impact to you before we move on to look at some more questions. Just tell me what is standing out for you in those 4 steps I've mentioned. So David said, keep the faith is huge. I've been searching for 9 months, Dave. Gosh, you've got real resilience there. Masses of compliments and assurances about how great I am. I wake every morning and tell myself this will be the day. Brilliant. And I hope you're recording down those compliments, etc., because when you're having a tough day, looking back at what people have said is important. The transactional analysis, Jackie says, I'm going to simplify the format of my CV and cover letter. Great. CV and impact. Changing the intro to the resume. Great. Updating my documents. Brilliant. Good. Pretty much all the steps. First actions to review my CV, transactional analysis, backdoor strategy. Wow, it's brilliant to see all of this. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that you got something out of this and it's been helpful for you. Can you please tell me more about Friendly ATS? What are the key things to tailor my CV to pass this? Well, what I will do is at the end of this, I'll give you the link to my 7 CV tips and it'll be all in there. Working on this personal brand, review my LinkedIn profile with a different eye. Fabulous. Excellent. I'm glad you're taking away actionable strategies. That's what I promised you right at the beginning. So that's fantastic. So here's my prediction. The job market isn't going to get easier in the short term. In the next 6 months, it's still going to be sticky. And if you aren't on your A game and you're not using the backdoor strategy, you may still be stuck and frustrated. I do expect in 6 months, at the end of the summer, that things will start to change. But at the moment, you do need to absolutely be in that top 5%. And what is it costing you not to be in that top 5%, to not have that new job, to not get the salary increase and the fulfillment you deserve? That's why you're at a bit of a crossroads now. Are you going to continue on with doing what you've been doing, which isn't getting you the results? Or are you going to change and do something different and use those 4 steps I've talked about? And that's why I'd like to give you an opportunity. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to learn more about the strategies, the ones that I've developed through researching and working with hundreds of successful job searchers over 16 years. And to do that, I'd like to offer you a completely free career breakthrough call. And on a career breakthrough call, what I will do is I will give you clarity on what is stopping you personally from getting that next career move. I'll also help you identify what you want from your next job. And I'll help you create an action plan with specific steps so you can nail your next role. So that career breakthrough call lasts about an hour. And within it, that's actually worth £360. So it's a bargain. But I'm only offering 10 free career breakthrough calls today because my diary, my calendar gets pretty chock-a-block and I haven't got room for more than that. So if you want to get clarity on what's stopping you getting a job, you want to know what the next best role is for you, and you want an action plan for specific steps, then book yourself a free career breakthrough call with me.
In there.
And you can do that on this link. Here we are. Apply for your free breakthrough call by using the link below, which is speakwithjo.com. That's speakwithjo.com. I shall put it into the chat, so you can just click on the link and book your breakthrough call right now. There we go. There it is in the link. That's speakwithjo.com. You go to the link, you'll be asked a couple of questions, and then you can pick the time that suits you. So if you want to have a chat with me and learn more about what I've been talking about tonight, then make sure you're in that first 10 people to get that call. Okay, so now I think is a good time to break for any more thoughts or questions that you have. So if I've missed questions as I've been talking, please do shout out. I'm going to unmute you all. No, actually, probably easier actually with this number of people. We've got 60 odd people, so probably easier if you pop your questions in the chat and I will take them that way. Otherwise, we're going to end up people talking over each other, which isn't great. So any questions I can take now? Okay, so I've got one from Amanda here, and she's asking about in an interview process, can I ask questions during the process, during the interview? Absolutely, Amanda. And that gets you into that position of, I was talking about, of adult to adult, professional to professional, because what it means is that you are having a conversation rather than just a sort of interrogation that some interviews can feel like. So do feel you can ask a question. If they're asking you about something in particular, you could then ask them how it works in their company. So yes, very much so, definitely. Do we have any more questions? I'll go back and have a look what's up here. Whether there's any I've missed. Okay, somebody asking for the link. Yes, I've put it out in the chat, or it's here on the PowerPoint. Another question from Miranda. I've heard a lot about long drawn out recruitment processes and unreasonable tests. What is reasonable? You're absolutely right, Miranda. Yes, the process for recruitment is taking a lot longer than it used to. The reasons for that is partly because of recruitment freezes, so people are taking a long process. And unfortunately, that can mean in some cases that you are getting partway through the process and then withdrawing the role completely, which is really upsetting for people who've gone through that process. Unreasonable tests, I think people are less likely to take risks at the moment. So some of the pharma and tech companies are less investing in some of the newer tech and etc. So there are less rolled out there as a result. What is a reasonable recruitment process? That's a tricky one because it depends on the role and the industry that you're in. I would suggest that on average, we're looking at about 3 months at the moment for the process is taking, but it does very much vary with industry and role. You said not to include a photo in your CV. What is your view on a separate profile document, including a photo? Absolutely, you can put that up there, definitely, as an attachment. It may not get opened because hiring managers don't want to move through things quickly, but certainly it's not a negative. So yes, if you want to do that. I've heard people being asked to give a presentation of a complete strategy, giving away quite a lot of IP. Yes, Miranda, absolutely, that is happening. And I think you need to be careful in the strategy that you give and to ask the question. You know, if you're asked to give a strategy, asked to give a presentation with a strategy, you can ask the question, you know, what will happen with that strategy once if I'm not successful in the job? Is it acceptable to go directly to the hiring manager when the recruiter is not providing any feedback despite multiple requests? Absolutely, yes. A lot of hiring managers won't give you that information simply because they're too busy, but there are some really great ones out there that take the time to give you feedback. So absolutely, yes, if you're not getting what you need to go direct. Marion says, thank you so much for this informative session. It's really helpful. I have to log out early as I have another meeting. Thank you. That's brilliant. Lovely to hear. Thank you so much, Marion. Yes.
Thank you.
More questions coming? Thank you. Any more questions at all? Fabulous. Okay. If that's the end of the questions, then here is the link to get your freebie. And again, I will type it into the chat because it's not the most user-friendly link. Is it this one? // coaching. Great, there it is in the chat. Let me know if it's not working, anybody. If it's not taking you through to the right place, let me know. Nina saying, thanks, has been very helpful. Thank you, Nina. I really appreciate that. How many times is appropriate to reach out to a hiring manager for follow-ups? Quite a few, I would suggest. Absolutely. If you're not hearing anything, I don't think there's a number particularly. I would keep pestering until you have an answer. Because they may give you reasons for the delay, in which case, and maybe when you follow up, you can say, and I'll follow up again in 2 weeks' time if I haven't heard. Let them know you're going to follow up. The link works. Thanks, Liz, for letting me know. Great. Okay. Brilliant. So if you've been able to get your freebie, that's great. Just to remind you what you'll get on your free career breakthrough call, clarity on why you're not getting a role. You'll be able to identify what you want for your next job and an action plan with specific steps. And here is the link, speakwithjo.com, to get your career breakthrough call. And look at that, 1 minute to 7. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining in, for contributing, and for being here this evening. I've really enjoyed it. You will get a recording in the follow-up emails, so do use that. And do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to see and hear how your job search goes on. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody that's coming on with their thanks. I appreciate it.